Greetings, specialists. Welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. Today we're going to continue with our engine tutorials. Last time we did an eco engine. It was, I think, a 1.8 liter turbo, 135 horsepower. This time we're going to go naturally aspirated again, and we're going to be doing a sport engine, a sporty naturally aspirated engine. Now, what do we want? First of all, we definitely don't want cast iron. Well, cast iron crank is fine, but cast iron conrods are definitely not good enough because we want a higher rev limit. Therefore, I would recommend either I-beam steel or I-beam titanium. Keep in mind, titanium is like substantially more expensive. Like depending on what you want. If you want an engine that revs to like 9 or 10,000, you can go for I-beam titanium. Otherwise, I'd recommend to go with the I-beam steel. Hyper-tactic casts are definitely not good enough for high rev limit. You can go forged or lightweight forged. The cost difference here is not too significant. As far as bore and stroke ratio goes, you want definitely a higher bore than stroke. If we go to like a 1.8 liter here, you would definitely want it to look like this. We still get 111 horsepower. We still get 159 newton meters. It will be more. It will be heavier than the other 1.8 liter naturally aspirated engine, because bigger bore means wider or just larger pistons, and therefore more weight. But it's fine because we'll compensate for that with higher power. Now, let's start here with the RPM limit. How far can we go with this? 8,000 is too much already. Yeah, we get valve float. Let's not go too over the top. Let's go for like, 7,000 is as far as we can go. Really? Let's put, I mean, that's mainly because we haven't adjusted the cam profile yet, because now it's green. Cam profile. Depending on what you want, depending on how much power you want, I would suggest using at least 60 cam profile. You can also go higher, obviously. Again, it mostly depends on how much power you're looking for, on how much power you really want to make, and how little you care about the economy, really. Let's go with 65. We need a bigger exhaust, and we need a higher rev limit. So let's change that right away. This should be fine for now, and we need a higher rev limit. And we're gonna go for a different exhaust header as well, because Shortcast was for the budget engine. There we go. We're gonna go for a long tubular. Raised tubular headers, I think, are road legal if the engine is not too loud. Speaking of mufflers, for a sports engine, I would rather have straight-through mufflers to make it a little bit louder. Yeah, 7,500 RPM is totally fine. How far can we go? Okay, 7,600. Beyond that, it starts to float a little bit again. The valves do. I would recommend going for throttle per cylinder setup on a sports engine, because it just gives you so much more throttle response. Look at that, 8 points more, without adding all too many costs. And the important part is, the throttle per cylinder configuration does not increase your service cost, whereas the performance intake does. Of course, the performance intake will add a little bit more power and shave off just a little bit of weight. It will not actually increase the throttle response though. So I recommend, just for a regular car that's not like a a supercar, I would basically always go for a standard intake. Okay. We have a lot of fuel octane left, so we are going to increase the compression ratio. That brings us up to 173 horsepower. Ignition timing we can definitely afford to lower a little bit. Let's see when we reach the point where we do not make our max power at the right at the red line. This is actually a pretty nice torque curve here that we have. Because yeah, I realized we had more torque, like a flatter torque curve up in the high RPMs before we changed this. But we now have a little bit more down low. Especially once we increase the compression ratio accordingly again. Like this. We have less power now. Yeah, we have less power now. Well, let's increase the cam profile a little bit. Maybe that'll allow us to rev it a little bit higher. 8100 RPM is where we make the max power now. If we do this, oh, no, 8100 is our rev limit now. 7800 RPM is where we make the most power. Valve float is occurring still. Really, how far up do we have to go until we can get rid of it, if we can get rid of it at all? 94? No, I don't want to go that high. 75 is already pretty high. $8,000? 7,800. Let's see. Can we make the power earlier without decreasing the cam profile, because that'll make the valves float even more. Let's stick with 180 horsepower for now and increase the compression ratio a little bit. (180 horsepower). Reliability is at 74.4. That's still pretty good. So 180 horsepower out of a 1.8 liter naturally aspirated engine is definitely nothing to sneeze at. You can get a lot more, of course, but if it's like an engine that is supposed to be both sporty with a good throttle response, but also still reliable, and at least somewhat economical, then this is definitely the setup I'd recommend. I will also show you how to get more out of your engine. So this is the wait, what did I call the other ones? This is the NA Sport, and now we're gonna clone this one and show you how to make a, let's name this right away, NA Super. Now definitely you want better pistons and conrods here. The crank is, it doesn't really matter. It will reduce weight though if we use a better material here. Definitely for a super for the super sports tuning, you would like to have some quality in the head section. You would also like to have an even higher rev limit, like 9,000 or so. a performance intake, as I've mentioned before, higher cam profile, somewhere around 90, maybe even, let's see what 100 would do. No, that torque curve is just not reasonable anymore. Let's keep it at 90 for now. Good. Definitely you can increase the fuel mixture. You can also run it on the super fuel if you want to. That'll give us even a little bit more power, 215 horsepower. Then a little bit of raised Tourer exhaust action, making it louder and also adding some more power. We will then also increase the size of the pipe, and we're up to 230 horsepower out of a 1.8 liter natural aspirated engine. And all the quality sliders we used was +5 in the head unit, so there's definitely some more power to be gained out of this thing. Especially considering that we can also increase, we can also make it run richer to 12.0 instead of, where were we, 13.5 I think? If we go all the way to 12.0, we could run it on premium fuel without losing any power, or it could go even harder on the compression up to 14.2 and gain 241 horsepower. Now that is pretty crazy from a 1.8 liter natural aspirated engine. That is not a race engine because we're not using race intakes. Right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna lower this a little bit and make it run on premium fuel, because premium fuel is available pretty much everywhere. Let me tell you one thing though, this engine is gonna use a lot of fuel because people are gonna drive it somewhere here, usually between 2000 and 4000, 4500 maybe RPM, where it's not really that economical, even for its kind of, like, comparatively speaking. It is most economical from 4500 to say 7500, where most people aren't really gonna drive it regularly, at least, and it's just, it'll use a ton of fuel. Let me tell you that much. Also, it only weighs 102 kilograms, which means this naturally aspirated engine makes about 2.3 horsepower per kilogram, which is pretty ridiculous. So now you learned how to set up a sporty and a super sporty naturally aspirated inline-4 engine. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like or a comment if you did. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.